with our peace and justice community for these many years.
Marty, I made this for you with love. Ilza and I designed this together. It is special, and I hope you'll find a nice place for it in your new home. It says, Marty and Mark, thank you for 10 years of hope. And the golden heart is for, basically, Ilza said, Marty has a golden heart. And all I could think of was brass, shiny brass.
And an engineer, he just told me something about his work as an engineer that's frightening to think how much power he had over the place where he worked. Who moved from involvement in the military industry to pioneering in simplicity. His book, don't forget this title, Radical Simplicity, Small Footprints on a Finite Earth, offers a path to a deeply sustainable way of living respectful of all life. His recent work helped Dartmouth College earn high grades on the Sustainability Report Card issued by the Sustainable Endowments Institute. Jim founded the Global Living Project, currently writes, lectures, and consults with campuses and municipalities on sustainability initiatives.
I don't know about you out there, but I feel my 8th fire is burning. And listening to Maria this morning and hearing the vision and the prophecies of the Penobscot people put a big fire into my heart. And I want to say that when I was in my 20s, I was pretty discouraged, and looking around me, I could see very little hope. And I made friends with the Chumash people when I lived in California, the indigenous people there. They got involved with our Earth Day in 1990. And when I started hanging out with the Chumash people who had survived 3 conquests, they survived the coming of the Europeans, the Spanish, and the Mexicans, and they still had hope. They still continued their ceremonies, their traditional way of life, after 3 genocide attempts. And the Chumash elders said, the Chumash do not know how to hate. The more time I spent with them, the more I realized, boy, this is some wisdom that I never heard from my own elders. And so she told me that there was some problems happening out in Arizona, trying to force the Navajo off the land. I ended up going out there for several years. And again, I would talk to indigenous elders through an interpreter. And when I would sit and listen, I would have tears rolling down my face because I hadn't heard truth from an old person my whole life. You know, my own generation was trying to put stickers on their RV to see how many states they've gone to. He said, but here's elders who are speaking up for the voiceless, the unborn generations, and tirelessly working for the good of all. It's hard for me to think of anything more important on the earth right now than to bring peace and to bring sustainability and sanity to, so we can turn, when we pass on, that we're giving it to our children, this planet is being turned over to them healthier than it is. We got it. And none of us can say that right now. And so some people say we got to teach the kids, and I'm saying no, we got to teach us old folks. Because we got to do it. We can't just say, I'm leaving it for my kids to fix. You know, I've heard some older folks say, you know, well, I'm not going to be around then. You know, I'm not going to be around then. I'm not worried. I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I'm not going to let somebody off the hook that easy. You know, and I teach at the college, and I say to the kids, you know, I've done more damage to this earth than everything I could do for the rest of my life. I couldn't really make up for it, but I'm going to darn sure try, and I'm going to apologize to you for what I've done, you know. I was selling arms to foreign militaries. You know, I had traveled 7 flights in like 6 months to meet with arms dealers all over Europe. And, you know, as a young kid, I just was like a young Republican kid who thought like, well, this was a fun, exciting job, you know. I got my degree in engineering. Let me do something fun. fun and interesting. It was fun and interesting, but we were doing the most heinous things you can imagine. And until I was in the wolf's den, I had no concept of what we were doing. And for the last 2 years, I stayed in that job. Because with my top secret clearance, I could learn, I was taught foreign military sales, how we sell to foreign nations. And I realized we were arming like 50 nations at the time. We were always arming whichever side of the conflict would be favorable to U.S. business interests. And we were trying to destabilize governments and doing regime change subtly. And when I got the feeling of what regime change is, it's poor people having their livelihoods taken away, having their lives taken away, being brutalized. And finally I had an ethical hemorrhage. You know, like I couldn't go to work one more day. And since I quit, I haven't been able to let go of that distaste for our military-industrial complex, for our nation and what it does. And I'm dedicated with every bone of my body, every day of my life, to think about what I can do to stop it. And I kind of am thankful I had that chance to work inside the belly of the beast. Because, you know, maybe if you don't see it up close, you just think, well, maybe, I bet it is that corrupt, you know, because you look at it and you read about it. The mainstream media is telling you, oh, we got to go over there and kill these people. We got to go drop bombs on them, you know? And so we kind of think maybe we have to, and then we have Obama doing it, and we think, well, if he's doing it and all the Democrats are doing it, maybe it's the right thing to do. But if we learn enough of what we're really doing, I think any caring person is going to come to the conclusion that bombs are never a solution to anything. They don't fix any problem. They just hurt more people. And I say facade because I believe in our core we're really beautiful. We know. You know, I don't think there's anyone out there who's really evil. That's my own take. Because when I worked in the military-industrial complex, what I learned is really nice people can do really heinous things. Now I'd like to just list 12 simple solutions to big problems that any person can do to address some of the largest problems we face. And one is we can plan ourselves, like where we really want to be. So, you know, if you live here and you work there and you go shopping over there and you love your family's way over here and the place you like to hike is over there, you're going to live in your car. Average people move about every 4 or 5 years. So you may not change this right away, but if you're setting up for a move in your life, and anytime soon, if you can settle yourself where you really love being, your friends, family, work, a place you can bike and walk to get things you need to do, that one shift is going to make the hugest difference in your ecological impact. And I'll say number 2 is to reduce your ecological impact in so many different ways. We've all heard of the reduce, reuse, recycle, but I was playing with how many different things, like refuse. You can just refuse. If someone's trying to give you a paper cup to drink your coffee out of, saying, wait a minute, I do not want a dead tree to drink my coffee. They give you a paper napkin. Wait, why do I want to wipe my face with a dead tree? So you bring your cloth napkin. If you forgot your cloth napkin, you say, if God had meant for me to use a dead tree to wipe my face, he wouldn't have given me a shirt sleeve. And your fingers, she gave us pants to wipe our fingers on if we forgot our cloth napkin today. And if you forgot I've actually gone into the garbage, pulled out a paper cup, and gone in and washed it if I forgot my coffee mug when I was addicted to coffee. I'm a little less addicted now. But, so refusing, rethinking is a great one. Rebelling, rebuilding, rewilding the earth. Yes, there's many things we can do to make our footprint lighter. And then number 3, procreate lightly and later in life. You know, I've watched the population double since I was born. The population doubling time was 123 years for not doubling, but just to hit 1 billion when my grandpa was alive. Then it was about 23 years, then it was 12 years, and then 12 years, and then 12 years. So we're adding another 1 billion, so they're saying we're going to go to 9, 10, 11 billion, which is, I've studied the math of this for 20 years as a recovering engineer, and it's not pretty. And I always was resisting ever saying population because it's easy to say, oh, those Africans should have smaller families, while we have the big footprint. So the richest billion consume the entire planet's annual yield. Okay, and then the poor have to get by, the 80% get by on nothing, really. They're really like living lightly. So it's the people with the big footprint have to have smaller families, too. And, you know, if you have a child later in life, you'll really slow down the population curve. So in my case, I just never was mature enough to have a child. And then I became an activist, and then I didn't want to have children. And then I met my sweetheart, and we wanted to have children finally, but I was 52 then. And I didn't really realize what was happening, but his cousins are like 25 years old. So we've taken a whole generation of an American consumer off the planet, and we still had the joy of having a child if you're really motivated to do that. But so if you even wait 10 years or 15 years to have a child, it's going to make a big difference in this exponential growth curve. And just by having one-child families for the next 100 years, we could go from 7 billion, reverse down to 1 billion people in just 100 years on planet Earth by having, on average, one-child families. And I'm not saying population control. What I'm saying is by voluntary choice of women, and women will choose to have small families when they're out of poverty and they're in control of their own fertility, and it's not men trying to dominate them. Matriarchal cultures have always had small families, and the women know how to take care of their family, their community, and the cultures that have done it. I visited some of them. Kerala, India, they went from 6-child families under patriarch. When they returned to their matriarch, they went down to 1.4-child families. This is in a poor country in India. And they eradicated poverty in the state of Kerala, and the women will have smaller families when they're out of poverty. So if we eradicate world poverty, the women who are having large families now, you say to an Afghan woman, why is she having 6-child families? You say, that's dumb. It's not good for her. Well, why don't you go trade joint places with her for 5 years, okay? Go exchange your life for an Afghan woman for 5 years and come back and tell me about small families. You'll understand why she's having those 6 children. And it's not a pretty reason. Grinding poverty is not pretty when it's completely unnecessary. The Troubled Asset Relief Program, we gave the banks $700 billion. That money would have eradicated world poverty. Right there. Ooh, we decided 1 week to give it to the bankers. That was Obama. Our war budget would eradicate world poverty 100 times over. Even 20% of our war budget would eradicate poverty. When people say we don't have the resources, you can't do it, it'll take 20 years to eradicate poverty, you tell them they're lying. They're absolutely lying. We can eradicate poverty tomorrow, and we must. And when we do that, we'll address the population problem will happen, and if we stop blocking family planning as a nation. Number 4 is, ride sharing. Even if we use the car, but we put 2 people in it, we have its impact. We use it half as often, we'll quarter the impact. And then if we get a car that gets double the miles per gallon, we could be to 1/8 the impact and still be using your car. Then you put 4 people in your car, and you say, my car doesn't move till there's 4 people in it. You just make a rule, And so then you've got to find your neighbors, say, when do you need to go shopping? Let's all go together. My car won't move till there's 4 people in it. And I learned this when I was in India, because I didn't know when the bus would go. No bus schedule, I couldn't read anything. Anything on the bus didn't make sense. And I'd ask people, when does the bus go? And they didn't know what I was talking about. And then I'd get on the bus and just wait. And it wouldn't move. Then I'd hear people climbing up on the roof, and the whole roof is full, and it wouldn't move. Then I'd see people climbing on the bumper and hanging on the bumper. And when that bumper was full of people and they couldn't possibly put one more person on that bus, they would start to move. So, and if you're into bicycling, when I was in Europe, I would see people all